This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome to another edition of the Sellers Points podcast. We're making a habit out of actually doing these things on time. Don't get used to it because, that's whenever it'll all just fall apart, as it tends to. But we're back, and this time it's time for another rebooking. And we're going to be taking a look at not one of the more popular Marvel films, and we're going to talk a little bit about how it could be better. But joining me, of course, your illustrious host, Russell Sellers, on this journey is my favorite ginger bear and yours, Mr. Kelly Poole. How's it going today, Kelly?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad.
You having a decent night? You ready to dive back into the world of Thor?
Yeah, I'm ready to.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little Thor: The Dark World, because as I think most people would agree that not the strongest effort of the MCU. Do you think that that's fair?
I think, yeah, it's definitely one of the films that's not as strong as some of the others. I would agree to that, but I will say that the film, I think, stands on a lot of it does have some really neat things going on in it. I would say that this film, to me, is, and I know this may piss off a few people, The Dark World to me is still better than Iron Man 3.
Oh, all them
by a whole long shot.
Oh man, them's fighting words for Greg Phillips.
I know Greg loves Iron Man 3, and God love him. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's great. I hate it. I hate the film with every fiber of my being. And but those that love it, hey, I mean, look, I know there's a lot of films that I love that people would just destroy. So I get it.
I know when I say them's fighting words for Greg Phillips, what I mean is he would just look at you and say, He would do your thing. He would steal your line.
Yeah, I know, and and rightly so. I mean,
that's all it would be though, because you know what, we all have our likes and dislikes of films, and there are occasions whenever this whole group of friends just disagrees on something, and Thor: The Dark World, though, I think is one that we all kind of largely agree is pretty weak as MCU films go, but that it still has a few, solid bright points in it, which we will definitely talk about because the bright points are worth mentioning. And they are the parts of the film that I would say, I don't want to change this piece. But there's a whole lot in this that I would want to change. But I guess we should tell people what the basic plot of this movie is, because Thor: The Dark World is, of course, the sequel to the original Thor film, and is also a sequel to Avengers, which had came out the year prior. Thor: The Dark World came out in 2013, and kind of does a pickup right after where Avengers leaves off, because as we know, Loki was the main villain of Avengers, just as he was kind of the main villain of the original Thor film, played brilliantly again here by Tom Hiddleston. And he is brought back to Asgard in chains. He's going to be, imprisoned for the crimes he committed on Earth. But this film kicks off with a big flashback scene to a time when the Nine Realms, as we know them, are still pretty young, but an event called the Convergence is happening, which is an alignment of all nine realms being kind of in sync with one another, and it has this tendency to open portals between worlds. And it's one of those times when all nine realms are so interconnected that you can walk between them. And during this time, a dark elf called Malekith wants to turn the entire universe back to darkness, which is what it started as, and that is the natural state and realm of the dark elves. And he's going to accomplish this with something called the Ether, which presents itself as this kind of red, slime-like, but yet sentient type material that supposedly can reach out and, if used properly, destroy all of the nine realms, or at least plunge them back into darkness. That's really the basis of Malekith's whole plan. The Ether has been harnessed by him to power his ships and several of the Dark Elves' weapons, as well as their ability to turn certain Dark Elves into what they call the Cursed, and that's spelled with a K because Marvel Comics. And these Cursed are basically super strong, unstoppable berserkers who can only stay like that for so long before the curse of the Ether eventually eats them alive, or it burns them alive from the inside. Now, in this long ago sequence, we see Odin's father Bor actually invade the home of the Dark Elves as the Nine Realms are aligning, and Malekith is going to unleash the Ether on them. Bor's army in a very, very Lord of the Rings looking sequence, and I mean, as I was watching it earlier today, I was like, wow, this looks like it's straight out of Middle Earth, like every bit of it, right down to the CG and even the creature designs. And that's not a knock or anything. If any of these movies or any of these franchises were going to have that Lord of the Rings feel, you would think it would be the Thor franchise. So it just kind of steers, headlong into that, and it's a fine opening sequence. Ends with King Bor defeating Malekith. Malekith basically sacrificing his entire army, like all of his people who were like in these giant floating ships. He just turns them off and lets them fall to the ground below to try and kill as many Asgardians as he can. But Bor and his menagerie defeat the Dark Elves. They steal the Ether away and bury it deep in I guess what looks like a pocket dimension on Earth, because they all assumed that Earth was never going to form intelligent life. Well, and then we fast forward to the future after Malekith has escaped and gone into stasis, with everyone just assuming that he and all the Dark Elves were dead. And of course, this movie picks up with the basic idea that all these thousands of years later, the convergence is happening again. The Ether calls out to the Dark Elves, since they are supposedly directly connected to it. Malekith and the surviving Dark Elves wake up, and they are basically picking up where they left off. But this time, they're going to take the fight to Asgard first, in order to make sure that the ones who defeated them last time aren't able to do so again. There's also the subplot that Jane Foster, who was left on Earth after the first Thor film, if people remember, she and her pal Darcy discover this weird phenomenon in London that happens to be a part of the convergence, and is also where the Ether is buried. Jane touches the Ether, becomes infected by it, and this is when Thor comes, marching right back into her life to bring her back to Asgard and try to figure out what's going on. And of course, this is about the time when Malekith is going to invade Asgard. There's a lot of this stuff is going on. So that's the basic plot, which honestly, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily a bad plot. What do you think, Kelly?
No, I I think the plot in the story is fine, and I know you rewatched it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, of course, but I remember it well enough to know that there was just something, and I still to this point, I really don't know why it felt kind of meh to an extent for me.
It's mostly the performances that are the problem.
Well, I agree. I think there were some I felt like Natalie Portman just walked around with a phone in her hand. I really don't felt like she had any passion or any feeling whatsoever about doing this. In fact, the kissing scene at the very end between her and Thor is not her because of scheduling. It was actually Chris's real life wife that stood in for Natalie. And I'm sure Natalie didn't go out of her way to fix the scheduling so that she could make it. She probably didn't give any shits about it.
Now she got her paycheck, and
yeah, she got her paycheck and got out of there.
And the thing is, I felt that way about the first movie. I felt that way about this one, and it's really sad because the first movie, I think is a really entertaining film, and it's one that actually gets better each time I watch it.
It is a lot better. It does get better over time, and I know I said, I think off before we started recording that I don't think there's any really Marvel film that I've seen more than once, but I have actually seen Thor more than once, and you're right on the money about that. The only problem I think for me with Thor was the fact that it just seemed like it ramped up so much there at the end. Like the last 30 minutes was just like rush, and I would have liked it to kind of paced out a little bit further.
Yeah, it could have stood to be a little bit longer, and that fight scene at the end with the
destroyer, I think
destroyer.
could have been a little longer. Made it.
And the CG at the time was a 2011 movie. CG had come a good ways by then. Still, I mean, it looked fine, but it's the one part of the movie where I'm kind of taken out of the film. But boy, oh boy, does Tom Hiddleston's performance as Loki fully make up for that. He steals the movie just like he does in Thor: The Dark World. Because of all the things that I would not change in Thor: The Dark World, it's anything and everything to do with Loki. Anytime he's on screen, he is magnificent.
Yeah,
just an absolute treasure. He helps to elevate this movie to be better than pretty much anybody else in the film. And even though Chris Hemsworth and Anthony Hopkins are definitely bringing it, they're doing more, I feel, with less in this film. I feel like they weren't given, much in the way of necessarily development or just like meat as far as the script is concerned, but they really turn it up and they tried to make something something of nothing. So
I think I agree. I think both of them did well with what they had to work with. I was just also happy to see the Warrior 3 and Sif kind of have their parts in it as well, because those, when they made their appearance, of course, in Thor, the first Thor film, I was extremely happy to see them, because the Warrior 3 and Sif are both kind of really important supporting characters for Thor, and they just add a lot to the kind of buddy camaraderie that you have. Like Thor had these great buddies that he hung out with and fought with, and I just think it adds a lot. It really brought a lot to this film, in my opinion.
They're not in it nearly enough.
No, they're not. But the little pieces that they are, I was happy to see that, because I was like, that was one of the things I was like, God, I wish they were in this more, because it would have made more sense.
Yeah, and personally, I was really enjoying Zachary Levi actually plays Fandral in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and he did not play Fandral in the previous film. This was a recasting, but I was actually enjoying just some. I mean, it's one of those roles that the recasting was so seamless that you almost can't tell. If you weren't looking for it, you could easily miss it because he looks so much like the other guy and plays the part almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
Another person that I'd like to call out who does a really good job in this movie is Renee Russo playing Frigga. She was great. Unfortunately, she meets her end in this film, killed by Malekith right in front of Thor, who slings lightning all over Malekith's face and leaves him scarred, which makes him look more like the Malekith that we know from the comics.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's about where the similarities between the Malekith of this movie and the Malekith of the comics come to an end.
Yeah.
Because as much as I like the guy, Chris Eccleston plays Malekith. And when I heard about that casting, I was pretty excited. I was like,
I was too.
I was like, okay, this guy, he's good. He was really good as the Ninth Doctor. I've seen him play villainous roles before. I know he's got like a world of personality. He's very magnetic on screen. So I had my hopes up. I was expecting, this very flamboyant, quick-witted type villain. And I was like, well, that'll be in keeping with, the tradition of, or not so much tradition, but it would just be in keeping with what we had in the original Thor film with Loki, who is a brilliant villain. Yeah. And then we got, the only thing, to put it in people's perspective, if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, you know how Ronan the Accuser is in that movie? Malekith is basically the same villain.
Yeah.
They are mirror image. They are basically carbon copies of one another. There's no personality in it. There's really nothing there for Chris Eccleston to work with. And I don't blame him for the performance he gives, because honestly, when you look at the script and you look at how the character was written, they gave him absolutely nothing.
Well, that's the unfortunate thing when it comes to these characters like Malekith and Ronan. In the comics, they're pretty well defined and they've got a long history. And for the most part, I haven't read everything with them in it, but the stuff I have read, they're usually pretty well written. Mm-hmm. It seems like Marvel, that's the one problem they have, is they kind of raised the bar. The bar was set with Loki in the Avengers, and they have not hit that bar again. They have a hard time bringing a villain up to that kind of level, with the exception, I'd like to at least say in here, Michael Keaton's Vulture.
Absolutely.
I think he's like right up there with Tom's Loki character. I just think that he brought it, but he had a lot to work with. That helps,
I would add Kurt Russell's ego.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's another character that got a lot of screen time, building up the character, kind of getting to know him, and then you're getting a curveball there at the very midpoint.
Like it helps to have a good charismatic actor and somebody who's like super talented. Playing the roles like Michael Keaton, like Kurt Russell, and like Tom Hiddleston. And I would, under normal circumstances, I would have put Chris Eccleston.
He would have been able to bring
that list.
He had something to work with.
Oh yeah.
He's. If you haven't seen, I'm trying to remember what he was in that I watched. It had 3 seasons. Oh God. Shoot. Well, this series that he was in, maybe somebody will understand. Maybe somebody will get what I'm talking about. The show ran for 3 seasons. It was about all these people that disappeared, and they thought it was some sort of second coming. And he plays.
Was it The Leftovers?
The Leftovers, exactly. That was it. he was brilliant in that. I really enjoyed that show, that series. But that just goes to show that he had material to work with, and in this, he didn't. You're completely right, Russell. That the just didn't have anything, so he just not phoned it in, but just read the script.
Yeah,
you know,
he played the part as it was written, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's the problem is that the way it was written is like this very Shakespearean, upright, proper, villain who's just delivering his lines, and I know he's supposed to be like full of rage, but most of the film you don't even get that. He just kind of looks, I don't know, bored. Might
yeah.
might be the way, or like sad, and I'm supposed to be empathetic towards this character, maybe, but I don't know. Whenever he's there, I'm like, oh well, there's Malekith, or there's a
Yeah.
stand-in amalgamation of Malekith, and it's just kind of whatever. But whenever you go and read, especially like go read current Thor comics written by Jason Aaron, the way he writes Malekith is the way that character should be written. He's very flamboyant. He's full of energy, and he's as twisted and evil as it gets. He's Loki's equal, and that's I think that is what really would have sold me on this movie. I know that they were probably worried about making another villain that seemed a lot like Loki, but for my money, if you had that version of Loki that we get in this movie, who I gotta praise Tom Hiddleston's performance a little bit more here, because we've seen the evil version of Loki, the one who is like trying to be, a ruler over all. But here we see a Loki who's kind of broken down to his core because he's in prison, and the only person who seems to care anything about him is Frigga, his adopted mother. And I mean, Odin wanted to just, lock him in a prison and throw away the key. Frigga tries to keep like some form of contact with him because she was always close with him. She treated him like her own child, even though he's a frost giant. She even she's the one that taught him magic and taught him how to do, all this trickery that he's, famous for. And then when she dies in this movie and Loki finds out about it, you see him just fall apart. He destroys his cell, or like destroys all the furniture within it, and creates an illusion that everything is fine. He tries to pull that trick on Thor. Thor's having none of it because he's like, you know what? I know you better than that. Turn this illusion off. I can see through it. And when he does, you see that his whole prison is just like a wreck, and so is he. Like he's clearly been kicking the crap out of things too, because he's all his feet are like bloodied. He's just disheveled as he can possibly be. And I'm like, man, this is a side of Loki we have never seen. And it's adding real depth to his character. And what I think would have made this movie so much better is if you would have had Malekith being what Loki used to be before all this happened, and then setting them kind of opposing one another, having that moment where Loki is confronted with someone who's basically just like himself and offering him a kind of power that he didn't have whenever he tried to take over Earth. But you would have had that, two flamboyant individuals who would have fully understood each other. But of course, Loki would have to, see Malekith for what he is, the one who killed his mother. And that one moment is what would have kept him from ever joining Malekith, because Malekith basically sealed his own fate by killing Loki's adopted mom.
Yeah.
That would have done it for me. That would have like completely changed the course of this film, would have made it so much better, even with the phoned in performance from Natalie Portman, which let's face it, she's not going to give you what you want in these superhero films or any sci-fi movie that she does that's not an indie film. If you want a good performance out of Natalie Portman, it's going to have to be some kind of art house film or something low budget, something very dramatic. But even in those, like, I've seen her in some romantic comedies as well. Some like bigger budget romantic comedies, I believe.
Mhm.
She's kind of terrible in that. Uh,
Yeah, it's very weird. It's almost like she kind of picks and chooses, and I think, like you said, she's more comfortable, I think, doing smaller, you know, indie or art house films or something than she does the big blockbuster type films.
yeah, I was like, she gives a good performance in stuff like Garden State and the Dar- Darjeeling Unlimited or Darjeeling Limited. She was good, and I thought she was pretty good in V for Vendetta.
Yeah, yeah.
That was one comic book movie where she actually, gave a pretty good performance. She was very good in Black Swan, which is a weird as hell movie if you ever sat down and watched that one. Um, and she's earned her Oscar noms. She was good in Leon the Professional. That was when she was a child. When she was a child
Yeah.
actor, like she was showing off like major chops. Um, but it's just one of those weird things. Like you can just tell. Some folks are doing this for the paycheck because honestly, those indie movies, they're not going to make you rich. You're not going to be living in mansions and living the high life if those are the only movies you're doing. I mean, they can't really afford to pay you all that much, I wouldn't imagine. And I'm reasonably sure the box office returns aren't that high.
Yeah.
But they'll get you awards, if you put in the work. But that's I mean, we've harped on about her lack of ability here, but the one thing I can say for this movie, as I've been rewatching it, the comedy, the banter that these characters have with each other, I think it actually got better in this one than it was in the first one.
Yeah.
Mostly because I think because everybody's comfortable with each other and comfortable with their roles. Uh, I just, like I said before, I wish we could have gotten more of the Warriors 3, especially like Volstagg, who
Yeah.
I think is just absolutely wonderful in this movie. Uh, but I wanted to ask your opinion on this one other idea I had for making this movie better, and it's removing the Jane Foster element altogether.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I totally agree that could have been taken out, and you wouldn't have. It wouldn't. No one would have flinched.
No, and I would have removed actually all of the Earth elements because once this movie gets off of Earth and goes to Asgard and to Svartalheim and all these other places within the Nine Realms, it's actually pretty fun. There's some cool stuff happening here, and I have feel like Jane is just here to be a vessel for the ether. She's just here to be the MacGuffin, if you will, for this film. Or to give the MacGuffin a face rather than just being an inanimate ooze-like object. And I'm like, that's completely unnecessary. You know who suffers because of that? Lady Sif.
Yeah.
Jamie Alexander, who is not phoning it in. She is playing the role and doing it very well. And her chemistry with Chris Hemsworth is off the charts.
Well, like I said, they picked really good actors and actresses to play, the Warriors 3, of course, and Sif was beautifully cast.
Yeah, they nailed it with her and Idris Elba as Heimdall, who I absolutely love. Like his dry wit in both Thor films is just absolutely tremendous. That he's another one of those characters that I felt like he didn't get enough screen time. But what I really the part that I really like in this movie is now that I'm actually rewatching it as we're recording, and I'm up to the point where the Dark Elves have attacked Asgard, but Thor needs Loki's help in order to truly go after Malekith, and he knows that Loki would help him because Loki loved Frigga, and the chemistry between Hemsworth and Hiddleston, again, another one that's off the charts. These two are just a great buddy team because now the movie kind of becomes a buddy cop type formula.
Yeah.
And it works pretty well. But this is also unfortunately, I think the last time we see Fandral, because he jumps off of this boat, or this flying boat that they were using to get away from Asgardian military who were trying to recapture Loki. And that's, yep. Now it's just it's Thor, Loki, and Jane Foster off to the dark elf homeworld. And that I still think it works. I think it works really great because of the chemistry between Hiddleston and Hemsworth. Because Natalie Portman is pretty much going to sleep through the rest of this. The ether is having an effect on her, and it's like I said, she is just here to give the MacGuffin a physical form that can be easily moved from one place to another. And honestly, that could have been a literal rock if you wanted it to be, and it would have been just fine. And if you'd have given Malekith a personality, it would have worked out even better. Like, I wouldn't have had him go angry rage Malekith until he got this, giant burn mark on his face, where like Thor literally burns him with lightning.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, totally get it. But I think one other issue that I have with this movie is you can kind of tell that it was, I don't want to say slapped together, because clearly they were planning this for a while, and it took a lot of work to get it to look as good as it does. And I'm not saying that as in it was slapped together as far as the effects and visuals are concerned. No, that's all pretty right on, pretty what you'd expect, or what you should expect from a superhero film. The slapping together part feels like it was done in the story, or in the script and some of the execution, which I'm going to lay at the feet of Kevin Feige and the director Alan Taylor, because honestly, neither of them were really doing their best work with this one. Not that Alan Taylor has all that impressive of a resume. He's not done a lot of film. He's done mostly television. A lot of it for HBO, including like several episodes, like 6 episodes of Sex and the City, 9 episodes of The Sopranos. He directed a few episodes of Mad Men. He's also done he did several episodes of Game of Thrones, but that was after his time on Thor: The Dark World, or right around the same time, maybe. I think he did that in 2012, but his only other notable film that I'm seeing is Terminator Genesis. So, well, there you go. Not the greatest director, but I think Kelly, you may be aware of this, but he was not the original director of this movie. He was a last-minute call-in because the original director, Patty Jenkins, quit the movie because of creative differences between she and Kevin Feige.
I see.
And she has in the last year said what it was that got her to leave, and it was because they had a vision for what they wanted their Thor movie to be. She had a completely different vision for it, and the two were not compatible, and they just couldn't reach consensus on it. Because she wanted it to be a Romeo and Juliet type story, and they were just not having it. And I realize that these movies need the comedic side of things, but there are times when Thor: The Dark World, for all of its serious and dark takes, it gets a little too silly for my taste.
Yeah.
I'm to one of those moments now, and I'm just not sure how to take it. Stellan Skarsgård plays Eric Selvig again, and he's one of the few scientists on Earth who is also looking at and studying the convergence. He sees it, and I guess he knows what it is, because as we saw in the original Thor, he was one of those that believed in believed still the Norse mythology, or was an expert in it because his family is Norse. And this is also where we get more of Kat Dennings as Darcy, and her intern, whose name escapes me at the moment. It doesn't really matter because he's just there to be the guy that Darcy makes fun of. And yeah.
Yeah, Darcy, as much as I like the actress, I mean, she's hot. I really,
I agree.
But she could have been left out too. I mean, it's
all of Earth could have been left out of this movie.
Yeah, it's yeah. There's not anything. I mean, it could have been just straight onto Asgard and no Earth at all.
No, we could have completely dumped every bit of that, gone straight to Asgard. Keep the opening sequence, give Malekith a personality, and cut Jane out of this, and just have the ether. You could have had Loki and Thor going to find this stuff, and also going for a bit of a revenge movie, I guess, on Malekith, who killed Frigga, and left Asgard kind of a mess. Now, I will say that this movie has kind of an intriguing kind of ending. If you'll remember, we're led to believe, or at least Thor is led to believe it at one point in this film, that Loki is indeed dead. And it looks like, Malekith does succeed in killing Loki. But as it turns out, it's a trick. It's one of Loki's many illusions. Mm-hmm. And Loki has succeeded in dethroning Odin. And I guess he puts Odin into the Odin sleep again, because it was kind of ambiguous as to whether or not Odin was alive. But he makes himself appear as Odin, and he takes over the throne of Asgard, making people believe that he is that, including Thor. At the end of the film, Thor goes to him, and you think you've had this nice conversation with Odin where everybody's on the same page, everyone's good with each other. And as Thor is leaving and exits out of the big Asgardian hall, Loki drops the illusion and reveals himself as the one sitting on the throne of Asgard. It's a hell of an ending.
Yeah.
And seems to set up what would be the future of the Thor franchise, supposedly. Mm. But we know now that things are going to go in a somewhat different direction. And there's of course the curse that this movie has, that I guess it's the curse of all of these films, or almost all superhero movies, where the third act gets really CGI heavy and is kind of forgettable, honestly. You see the stakes, you can see the stakes laid out, that this stuff is going to spread out all over the world, destroy everything, plunge it all into darkness. But it's just, I don't know, it all just feels kind of like a waste to me at the end. Okay, we had the big battle between Thor and Malekith's forces. If I remember right, he does get some help from the Warriors 3. It's pretty par for the course standard battle sequence, not the most impressive one of the MCU for sure. Right. And the big revelation about the ether, and this is how you can tell that they truly were just marking time in the second phase of these MCU films, is the ether is revealed to be an Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
I believe it's the power gem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, there's your Thanos and Infinity War connection, because we've revealed yet another Infinity Gem. At the basically at the expense of Thor's best villain next to Loki, and it kind of makes this whole exercise just feel so completely unnecessary. And
Yeah.
that's really the biggest problem. Not that there weren't, really good moments in this film, like we've been talking about. The comedy, some of the performances are outstanding, as they will tend to be. Uh, but yes, here's that moment I was referring to. I'm to the part where it appears that Loki is killed by, or is going to be killed here on uh, the former home of the Dark Elves. Uh, there for a minute, it looked like he had actually betrayed Thor and cut his arm off, which could be foreshadowing, honestly, for the future of this character.
Yeah.
Do you think that would? Do you think people would be okay with that if they cut off Thor's hand or cut off his arm and gave him the cybernetic arm that he currently has in the comics?
Um, well, I haven't been reading Thor. Did he actually lose his?
Yeah, he's missing an arm.
Okay.
And he has well, it's not cybernetic. It's still forged, in the old god style.
Yeah.
I forget the metal that it's. I want to
Yeah.
say it's made of uru, similar to.
It's like a clockwork arm or something.
Yeah, it's
Kind of. Yeah.
like you can
I-
see,
you know-
you can see it in some of the new Thor designs that have come out,
It-
because they've now they've shown that Thor is going to be back with a hammer, but he's still missing his natural arm. He's got this golden arm now, and the hammer appears as gold. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure how we get there yet, but we'll get it in comic story, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think that it could be. I mean, it was anything's possible. I mean, Marvel is very very careful to try to keep their movie characters and their comic characters kind of on the same page to some extent. Not, dotting every I and crossing every T, but I mean, it's definitely something they could do. I mean, no comic book reader would go, why they do that? Oh, that's why they did that.
Yeah, and I think it could absolutely work. But I do like this scene actually that we're seeing right now. It appears that Loki stepped in to save Thor from one of the cursed, or a classic Thor villain called Curse, as portrayed in this movie anyway. He runs this giant berserker through with a sword through the back, as it's been just mercilessly beating Thor into the ground. And the thing turns to Loki and grabs him and basically just gives him a big hug, forcing the blade through Loki's chest. And when it's revealed later that this doesn't actually kill Loki, this is a hell of a performance. Because he goes, like, his skin begins to change color, like he's going back to his natural frost giant look, and you can see just the life draining from him, and he and Thor having this like really heart to heart moment where it seems like Loki has revealed himself to actually be a hero. And I love the performance from Chris Hemsworth here, because he really brings it home that even though he and Loki were on opposing sides, they were still brothers. And,
Yeah.
and that this was kind of the final straw, I think, for Thor. Like, if he wasn't going to go 100% hardcore after Malekith, he's going to now.
Right.
And this really cool scene that they do here, as this dark elf world seems to be falling apart, or at least for my money, it's a really cool looking scene, and it's from here that I think the movie kind of devolves a little bit, and it goes into, oh, let's go back to Earth where everything is gonna go down, and we can hear more from Darcy and from Selvig, because that's what we all want.
Yeah.
And like we said, nothing against Kat Dennings. I think she actually plays her part better than Natalie Portman plays hers.
Yeah, I think, like I said, she's fine for what she does in the film and for what her character does. And you're right. I mean, she's not phoning it in. She's doing her performance. But I mean, yeah.
And Stellan Skarsgård, everybody's playing their role as it's written, with the exception, I think, of Natalie Portman. But it's so disappointing too because Chris Yost is actually responsible for writing the screenplay to this movie, and he's one of my favorite comic writers. And he's adapted several good Marvel properties to television, like Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes is largely written by Chris Yost.
Yeah.
And he does a tremendous job of it. So it's really disappointing that he didn't do a better job of writing this film. And I don't know whose idea it was to throw in oh, look, Jane Foster goes out on a date with random British guy and make that a source of comedy in this film, but it feels really out of place to me in this. It feels like something that's straight out of The Office, and that doesn't work in a Thor setting. So I find that dude really annoying. I find the whole awkward comedy conversation to be equally so, and it's just a grand waste of the audience's time. So that's another thing that I would completely drop from this film, because Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston are funny enough on their own. They don't need this help.
No.
This is help they just really do not benefit from. And honestly, you could have given Lady Sif a much bigger part.
Yeah, I was just about to say that if they had dumped the Natalie Portman, if they didn't stay on Earth, if they cut all of that out, Sif could have got a bigger part. The Warriors 3 could have got a little bit more screen time. And I think the film would have been overall a better film. And
I wouldn't be sitting here looking at Stellan Skarsgård in his whitey tighties.
Yeah. I mean, nobody wants that.
Nope, I don't want that, but there it is. There he is in all his whitey tighty glory. Wide-eyed as ever. Come on in and give Chris Hemsworth a hug. There he's doing it.
Yep.
Not that we all wouldn't. I mean, that Australian piece pretty much proves that when Great Britain turned Australia into a prison colony, they sent all their best breeding stock there. All them pretty British people apparently went to Australia. There are a few other examples I would point to. Unfortunately former WWE women's wrestler Emma, who was unfortunately released by the company this week, is also from Australia. And if you haven't followed her Instagram, I highly recommend you do so. It is a sight to behold. And yeah, just go check that out. Do yourself that favor. You won't be sorry. But that kind of brings us to the end of rebooking Thor: The Dark World. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about Thor Ragnarok, what our hopes are for this film, and by the time this comes out, the movie will be out, so we'll be able to see if our predictions and our hopes for it actually come true. So, if you guys will hang right there, we will be right back.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com, and we offer those to you on 3 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the original Place to Be podcast, as well as Main Event, Lucha Afterground, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows, as well as the Our Vantage Point podcast and Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver quick-hit pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Psychology is Dead, Puro Potpourri, Stacy and Elliot's Bogus Journey, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Letters from Center Stage, Space City, and NWA Classics On Demand Adventure, Through the Years, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Kayfabe, and much more. And on our popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Rank and File, PTBN Dadcast, Go Home in a Box, NBA Team, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the Hard Traveling Fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversation, Geek and Sassy, and Imaginary Stories podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to all of our feeds on iTunes, and while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when shopping online, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, TheHistoryOfWrestling.com, and Scott Keats' Blog of Doom. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome back. We have been talking all about Thor: The Dark World. We told you what we thought of the film, what we thought would make it better, which is of course the most important part, because that's the whole idea of rebooking, telling you what would make the film better. And as we discussed, there really wasn't like a ton that we would do to make Thor: The Dark World a better movie, but the changes that we would make would be significant. And we hope you guys enjoyed that. We hope you enjoyed our take on it. If you had some ideas about what you would like to see in Thor: The Dark World, what you think would have made it a better movie, we'd love to hear from you. Join up on the Place to Be Nation Comics Facebook group. Find this post. Tell us what you think. We'd love to hear that. You can hit us up on Twitter. I am at Russell_Sellers. Don't forget the underscore. And Kelly is at HKP2814. You will be able to hit us up on Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Thor: The Dark World. You like the movie, you hate the movie, you think that it's just the greatest film ever made, or just the worst piece of junk that you've ever laid eyes on. What do you think would make it better? Is there any way to salvage what it is? It's whatever you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about a movie that's coming out as we're recording this on a Monday night, on October 30th. The new movie, Thor Ragnarok, will be out this weekend. And from all indications, as the review embargo was lifted way early on this movie, them critics have loved this film. It, as of right now, is the best reviewed MCU film ever. It is currently sitting at a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is quite something, considering Thor: The Dark World is the worst reviewed movie of the MCU, sitting at a 66%. So this is a marked turnaround for the Thor franchise if the critics are to be believed, and we will see very shortly if audiences agree, at least audiences here domestically. Audiences overseas are already getting a look at the movie. It's already out in other places. But we'll see whenever the lot of us go to see it this weekend. Now, this film is directed by, I don't know how you pronounce this guy's name. I'm going to mess it up, so just bear with me. Taika Waititi, I think is how you pronounce his name. This is his first Marvel Cinematic Universe film. Primarily known for comedy, actually. He directed the absolutely hysterical movie What We Do in the Shadows, which is a mockumentary-style vampire movie. He also, let's see, what else did he do? I think that's really the most notable thing that he's done. He's done several episodes of Flight of the Conchords, and he also directed the indie comedy Eagle vs. Shark. So this is quite the step up for him into big budget superhero fare. But from what we understand, the movie has a lot of the big, fun, actiony set pieces that you would come to expect. It's definitely very colorful. Its home is in the world of neon colors. Has kind of an 80s sci-fi feel to it, and it's definitely going for more of a comedic feel, and that's what the critics are saying, that it's genuinely probably the funniest MCU movie ever, which is kind of strange to me considering that the movie subtitle is Ragnarok, and is introducing the Thor villain Hela, as well as Surtur the Fire Demon. So lots of stuff going on in this movie's 130-minute runtime. So, Kelly, from what you've seen so far, what are you thinking of Ragnarok?
Just the trailers I've seen, and I've kind of not really paid a whole lot of attention to reading anything, so that I can kind of go into it, with just the trailers, in my knowledge bank, I guess, for seeing, just seeing the trailers. But it looks really good, and it does look funny. It looks like we're going to see a return to some of that brotherly camaraderie between Loki and Thor. I think they're gonna bring that buddy brother comedy kind of thing there to it. But I think at the same time they probably bridged a pretty good gap between it being funny and the seriousness of Ragnarok. I think that they're just as, like I said, just the stuff I've seen in the trailers are really, 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 really good. And seeing Goldblum as the Grandmaster, when I heard he was playing the Grandmaster, I went, geez, casting, whoever cast him, give that guy a raise, because that's spot on.
It's brilliant, because he's going to be playing the brother, of course, of the Collector. If people remember that character as played by Benicio del Toro,
he's one of the elders.
Yes, he is one of the I believe they are called the Elders, aren't they?
Yeah, the Elders of the Universe.
Yep. Isn't Ego one of them as well?
Right. Let's see. There's Grandmaster, there's Collector, there's the Gardener, there's the Champion. Ego, I think, may be in there. I know that each one of the Elders had, back in the day, each one of them, comic book wise, had one of the Infinity Stones. So yeah, he may have been.
It should be cool, I'm looking forward to seeing that, but he's not one that you would necessarily associate with Thor, so it's really interesting to see him in there, because Grandmaster is someone that I would have associated more with Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's kind of hinting at a big tie between Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy. It seems like they're headed in that direction. And I think the trailers kind of give that away since they steer headlong into kind of a Planet Hulk situation because as we now know, as we've known since the first trailer dropped, Hulk is a big part of this movie, as is Bruce Banner, because apparently he's on this planet where Grandmaster has set up these Roman Colosseum style games or style like combat games, and Hulk is apparently the grand champion of them. Which I pop every time I see that scene in the trailer when Thor's getting ready to do battle, and when he sees it's Hulk, he gets so excited. Instead of like being afraid or like ready to fight, he's like, "Oh no, that's my buddy. That's my friend from work." I pop every time. I think that's hilarious. But I do have a couple of small concerns about the movie. I'm sure it's going to be a great film, but Ragnarok in Norse mythology and in the comics, in the Thor comic story, that's some pretty dark stuff. Ragnarok is meant to be, the end of the gods, and we're supposed to also have, a big presence of Surtur, the fire guy or the fire demon. Who doesn't really seem to be. He's in this movie. We know he's in it. We've seen him in the trailer. Though the suggestion is that he's only in it at the beginning or like in this like one scene. And Hela, who, don't get me wrong, she looks like a badass villain. I hope that she is as awesome as she seems to be in the trailer, that we don't have another, throwaway Marvel villain. Because I think it would do well for them to set her up as, the one that Thanos is in love with, because, as comic book accurate as it would be to have Thanos in love with the existential idea of death and him trying to court that, I feel like there needs to be a physical presence in order to get that across in a film. And who better than Cate Blanchett? She looks like she can really, bring it with the best of them. So that's what I'm hoping to see. I'm hoping to see a tease that Cate Blanchett, who calls herself the goddess of death, will wind up being more of a presence going forward, in likely in Avengers Infinity War, or maybe in Avengers 4, I don't know. Probably Infinity War, since that's going to be, Thanos' grand entrance into their world.
Yeah.
But we've got, a lot of stuff seems to be happening in this movie in a very short amount of time. I didn't know this until just now, but apparently Clancy Brown is doing the voice of Surtur. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely that makes sense.
For people who don't know Clancy Brown, he did the voice of Lex Luthor in Justice League, Superman the Animated Series, and in Justice League Unlimited. He's been on Flash very recently, as I believe it was General Eiling that he played.
Yep.
Yeah, he, of course, ran afoul of Gorilla Grodd, wound up being used as his hand puppet for a little while. Tremendous voice actor, so I think he's going to bring a lot of gravitas to Surtur. And of course we have what do you think about the presence of Hulk in this story and making this kind of like, from what we understand, it's going to be the first step in a new Hulk trilogy that's going to take place in other people's movies and not in a Hulk solo film, since there's apparently still a good bit of disagreement between Disney and Universal Studios about making a solo Hulk film, because quick precursor or a quick fill in there, Universal still has the distribution rights to Hulk films. So if you were to get a solo Hulk movie, Universal Studios would actually be getting a good chunk of change, and they want a certain amount of creative control over how that goes. And apparently they just don't see eye to eye with with Kevin Feige and with Disney as far as all that goes. And Mark Ruffalo has not been shy about putting all the blame on Universal Studios for them not getting a new Hulk movie.
Yeah.
So, but what do you think about Hulk being in Thor Ragnarok?
Well, I think that it's you know, it works. I mean, I don't, I think it's fitting. I mean, if they're doing this, I mean, the Hulk, both Thor and Hulk weren't in Age of Ultron Avengers, so seeing them together in this film, it just feels right.
Yeah.
Mind you, I could understand from a writing standpoint, having those two would have been kind of, well, crap. Team Cap's really going to be, who's going to go on Cap's side, because you can't have both Thor and Hulk on, Team Tony or whatever. So I don't know. It makes sense that he's in this film.
Yeah. Since we were without Thor and Hulk in Civil War, we needed to see what they were doing during all that. Like where did they go? Like what was going on with Thor and Hulk to keep them from being on Earth and getting involved? So here we go. Thor Ragnarok is likely taking place at the same time that Civil War is happening. So that's why we don't see either of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love, it's like they heard our complaints, Kelly. The movie's going to take place in space.
Yeah.
That's where it takes place. Like nothing in the trailers has even remotely hinted that this movie is going to take place anywhere near Earth. There's Natalie Portman is also not in this film.
And she really shouldn't.
No, there's no Jane Foster to be had here, folks. She gone. And from all indications, Natalie Portman has suggested that she's done playing the character.
I'm done her playing the character too. I'm fine with that.
I'm for it. I'm with you. I'm for it.
Not to be rude or anything. I just it's done.
No, we're getting Valkyrie in this movie.
I'd rather have
I would rather see Valkyrie and more Lady Sif, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I need Jane Foster? No, I have Valkyrie and Lady Sif. What do I need her for? And on top of that, we're getting Jeff Goldblum.
He's gold.
He is gold. Bloom.
Yep.
And
plus, I love him as an actor. He's just
yeah,
he's awesome.
He's tremendous, and I guess he is kind of playing a villain-esque character, an antagonist, in quotes, if you will. Of course, Hela is the primary villain of the film. But that is really cool. They've got him in this movie, and I'm so glad that it didn't work out for him to be in a Marvel film before this, because he was originally approached to play one of the senators in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And it would have been basically a glorified cameo.
Yeah.
It would have had no substance to it. There would have been kind of a blink and you miss it thing. His schedule didn't work out for that, so he was reapproached about playing this character, and I think we're all going to be that much richer for that other one not working out.
Yeah.
This is a much better outcome for all of us. Now, I know what I'm kind of hoping to see out of this movie is something that introduces a new set of Thor villains who can be used going forward. If we're not going to get a full round of Surtur the Fire Demon here, if he's not going to be like the primary antagonist of this film, I would really like it if he were set up to be that going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like if all I get of him is a kind of him and Thor fight, or he and Hulk even fighting to a draw, and them just being ripped apart are like ripped away from one another, that's fine. Just don't forget about him. He's a big important villain in Thor's universe, and he should really be given his own film later.
Yeah.
If he's not going to be, hopefully not done away with in this film. I hope they don't do that. But we got another Thor villain being introduced here in Scourge, who is being played by Carl Urban.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Carl's a fantastic actor.
Yep, definitely.
I really enjoyed him in the 2 Lord of the Rings films that he was in, and I really like him as Judge Dredd in the film titled Dredd. I also really like him as Dr. Henry McCoy in the rebooted Star Trek universe. I think that he has been even if you don't necessarily care for those films, you gotta love the way he plays that role. He's too good.
Well, I think everything he kind of gets into, he really just puts himself and makes that character his own. Like, I mean, Dredd. I mean, if you look at the Dredd film, I mean, which I watched it later after it had gone through the theaters. Yeah. Watched, I think, on Netflix one night, just because I was like, well, I'm bored. So, and had no expectations, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, he's Dredd, and he doesn't take his helmet off. Nope. So,
that was a ballsy move.
Right. Now, his partner, of course, got the helmet off, but I mean, sure. That was the whole thing in the previous Dredd film with Stallone. That just, I was like, God, itself is horrible on so many levels. It wraps around to being humorous. I mean, sometimes I'll watch it just to laugh, but yeah, Carl Urban's just great with whatever he does.
I fully expect him to be an awesome villain, or at least a pretty. I hope for a badass villain. Give somebody that can go toe to toe with Thor.
Right.
That would be really cool. Somebody that Thor can get like hand to hand style with. I'm going to admit something. I enjoyed that 1995 Judge Dredd Stallone film. It is ridiculous. I totally agree. It is one of the silliest films that you'll ever see.
No, it's. I mean, it's like we were talking earlier. I mean, I've got films that, like I'm gonna share one of mine, and I know a lot of people are kind of probably gonna moan or shake their head or even spit out whatever they're drinking, but the Thunderbirds film that they did back in 2004, based on the Super Marionette show that Jerry Anderson did for the BBC back in the day.
Yeah,
that's one of my it got Bill Paxton in it. That's just one of my, when I'm feeling really bad or if I'm having one of those times where I'm really down, I can watch that and it kind of gives me that little oomph. But it's totally cheesy. A couple of my friends know that I like it, and they give me shit about it all the time. Whenever I've watched it a few times, they come over when I'm watching it, and it's like, oh, I can't believe you're watching this. It is what it is.
It's like, shush you, this is my feel good movie.
Right. I mean, I get it. It's like, I'll watch. There's certain films that or certain movies, if they're on, like Starship Troopers, if I catch that on,
there's one.
I'm gonna just sit there and watch it, no matter where it's at in the film. I'm gonna finish it, And dude, Demolition Man is another one, and that's kind of Dreddish. That's kind of Judge Dredd, kind of.
That's a classic, though. I love that movie. I unapologetically and unironically love Demolition Man.
Yeah, Demolition Man is one of those films that is panned by a lot of folks. Probably, I think most people probably wouldn't admit to liking it, but I will. I'm right there with you, Russell. It's
yes.
One of those films that just, the whole. It's just, it's so
It's just crazy and over the top.
Right, it is, and you can't. It's just enough over the top. It's not completely campy. It's not completely just, it didn't hit that mark. It's just up to that mark and stays right there.
And ironically enough, Stallone also did a movie called Over the Top.
Yeah,
which is an
he did.
arm wrestling movie, which I also unironically love. We're just a bunch of big old Stallone fanboys over here. And you know what? I'll say this for the Dredd movie, for the Carl Urban Dredd. I really like the movie. I think that it's a kick-ass action flick that really has... Its humor is very dry and kind of very gallows humor, I guess. And it certainly doesn't have any of the silliness from the 1995 film. But I actually think that was kind of to its detriment a little bit. I would have taken about 15% of the silliness from the 95 movie and injected it into Dredd, and I think you would have had like a perfect movie. Though I do agree that to be true to the character, he shouldn't take his helmet off. And I think that was a ballsy move on Carl Urban's part to not do that, or to agree to never having his face seen on screen. Like all you see is from like his mouth down. That's all you get.
I'm pretty sure he. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of speculating, but I think more than likely he probably was okay with it because it kept true to the the comic book character. I mean that's.
They totally were. They did that. I will say that I love the over the top nature of Armand Assante's performance in Judge Dredd. As the primary villain, as Rico, I believe was his name. Yeah, he is a scene chewing machine through that whole film. And to bring it back to Thor Ragnarok, I kind of hope for that out of Hela, out of Cate Blanchett. I want her to be that type of villain, the one who can't shut up, be the exact opposite of Malekith, have all the personality, come out swinging and just chew up the scenery until there is nothing left, make Michael Shannon's Zod look like, a friggin' amateur. Because up to now, that's my favorite scene-chewing performance. Because Michael Shannon as Zod in Man of Steel just... Boy, he chewed up the scenes and spit them back out as if they were, unsatisfactory to him. He was like, chews them up, spits them out, and says, make it again.
I think there's going to be a lot of probably there's going to be a lot of that kind of... acting we're going to see in Ragnarok, just from the trailers and just from the actors that they have, in the film. I think it's probably going to be fun. And you know what? There's a certain amount of here's my little theory about this, that Marvel, as I've always said when we talk about Marvel films, is that they have that formula and they've continued to use it, and they've been pretty much, I would say, maybe 80% successful as these films have, continued to come out. But after a while, they need to tweak that formula, and they can't keep putting out. I mean, that's why, like, some of my favorite films have been like, like Ant-Man, for example.
Yeah.
There's a film that is in my top 5. I think we did that.
Yeah, we did that a while back. That was in my top 5. Because they needed to tweak the formula, and they don't need to keep, it being the same kind of manufactured, because like I said, at some point we're either close to, maybe we've already kind of hit that bubble of superhero fatigue. I mean, we're getting 3 films a year just about now, and DC's starting to come into the mix now and bringing their own formula to this. So I think you're hitting on something very, very poignant there. I think that what they need to do is they do need to tweak their formula. And I think we've seen it a little bit with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Oh yeah, definitely.
where they shook things up a little bit and let James Gunn have creative control over what he wanted to do. And I actually think that Guardians Volume 2 represents that in a more pure form than the original. As in, James Gunn really took this movie and did what he wanted to do with it. And this Thor film, Ragnarok, actually looks like it's what Waititi wants to do with it. It feels so different from everything they've done up to now. And I don't know about you, but every time I see the original trailer that has Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song going over it, I was like, man, you could easily drop Immigrant Song out of this and put in Queen's Flash.
Right.
Like, it's so Flash Gordon.
Well, excuse me. I agree. Because to me, like right now, the cinematic bubble, I don't think is really. We're on the verge of it now. Getting off topic for just a second, but kind of relates to this subject of the bubble that I'm talking about is the TV section. I think of because this season so far, the beginning of this new season that we have for a lot of, and this is mainly the DC shows, been kind of lackluster for me. And I'm wondering, okay, we've got Titans, we've got Black Lightning coming out, we've got a lot of shows that are coming out down the pipe that I'm kind of concerned about. I was like, are we coming to that point? Is the writing kind of now? I mean, it hasn't been all bad. I'm not saying it's been bad. It's just been lackluster, and hopefully it will continue to kind of. I mean, Arrow has kind of stood its ground, has kind of continued to do well, but some of the other shows, in my opinion, Legends and Supergirl have kind of suffered a bit. So at least so far this season, and we're not even close to being finished. So, but that's that bubble I'm talking about. I think, if we start getting these kind of weak episodes and things kind of this season, we could see ratings are starting to kind of slip. Might want to rethink doing some of these shows. I mean, because we got Runaways, Hulu's doing Runaways. There's a Cloak and Dagger show coming out. I don't know who's picked that up or who's going to be doing that. I think
that's on Freeform.
So it's, I think, like I said, Ragnarok, I think, is that right twist that is going to kind of keep things fresh, at least for the Marvel franchise. And I think for Thor, we had the first Thor, which was really, really good. Now that we've kind of seen it a few times, the second film, meh. This film, gonna pop it back up to that, hopefully pop up, bring it up several notches.
I think that Ragnarok could easily, it could reinvigorate the idea of what these superhero movies can be, and it could probably, and it's definitely going to save the Thor franchise. If they wanted to make more Thor movies after this, I think that if the box office gives the kind of returns that the critical reviews are suggesting, the Thor franchise lives, yet again, without any real worry there.
Definitely.
Now, for me, I will say the CW shows are hitting for me, especially Arrow. Arrow on fire this season.
Arrow is in my number one spot. Flash is right below that. Then Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow can be interchangeable depending from week to week. So far, hopefully, they will start stepping up.
I will say this past episode of Supergirl with the whole episode basically being on Mars. Mars
that
episode. Wow, big step up.
That was a huge step up. The only criticizing thing I'll have for it was her driving in with the car with the Britney Spears song playing. That's where I was like, okay, that's way too much cheese.
I felt like that scene wasn't really aimed at me. I was like, yeah, this is for the little girls who are watching this, definitely. And that whole
Yeah.
CGI fight scene after that was terrible.
Did you see how many? Did you see how many misses?
Yeah, she
I
missed.
was-
The
I was-
choreography was off.
The choreography was like complete garbage. Because I was sitting here with my friend Blake, and I was like, "Did you see that? Total miss. 1,
Yeah,
2."
like it was one thing if it would have been once, but it was like multiple times, and I was like, phantom
times.
punches going all over the place. I was like, look, if this is how it's going to be, just start heat visioning all of these white Martians, because this is the only thing. That's the only part of the fight that looks like remotely good.
Yeah.
The rest of that, but the crazy thing is like the rest of the episode, everything leading up to that, and then everything after that.
Oh yeah,
is
everything was great.
So just like spot on, and then I even got emotional over the Maggie and Alex stuff. I was like, this is so well done.
Yep.
And that's the only thing that kept it from being the top show of the week for me was that.
I got a little emotional myself with the Maggie, situation, and but what also kind of hit me in the gut was when they got back at the very end, and Kara says, "Welcome to Earth, Mr. Jones," and he just kind of has this look of like, and he's like, "Let's go home, Dad," and to see the two of them, I really hope that they keep him in, that they don't do anything dumb, kill him off, or because this is exactly what John needs. He doesn't have his daughters. I mean,
we don't have Miss Martian. We don't have any of that. What I was hoping for is this is a backdoor pilot to Martian Manhunter getting his own show.
Well, I mean, at this point, like I said, I'm all for them continuing putting out programming, but I just worry about the bubble, and I worry about, it's like I want good quality scripts, I want good quality shows, and when you have all of this out there, and on the CW, and you have people basically interwoven between all of these shows that they're kind of working on, and I get a little worried because I'm enjoying it. I just would hate for it to just crash and burn.
It's weird to say that those shows have actually been at their strongest whenever they're not really worried about the other shows. Like the crossovers up to now have only kind of sort of worked for me. I'm hoping that Crisis on Earth X will be better, but for me, like Legends was the one that the first episode I thought was really good. The second episode I thought might have been one of the worst in the show's history. That whole P.T. Barnum show, that episode did not work.
No, it didn't.
It did not work for me at all. Episode 3, however, was a marked turnaround. Like Supergirl, I was like, there we go. Week 3 for all the shows was tremendous. Each one of them really brought their A game, and I had gotten a little worried with Flash there for a second because it kind of felt like we're trying a little too hard to be happy joy time after the darkness of the previous season. But episode 3 that introduced a villain they called Hazard. I know her as Jinx. That villain was really good, well acted. The actress was also quite attractive, and they found a good balance in the show, and it felt like a season 1 episode to me. Also, the triumphant return of one Harry Wells, as played by the masterful Tom Cavanaugh.
I was missing Wells, and it was good to see the banter between him and Cisco hadn't changed very much, and that they can still poke one another. So I was happy to see, because the show's just not the same if you don't have a Wells there, and I really didn't want them to go, let's go find another Wells. I'm like, no. HR was fine.
HR was great.
Great, but
Yeah, I'm happy to have Harry back. He is the Wells this show probably really needs. Although you're not going to hear me complain if you go and get me some Cowboy Wells and bring him on over. Big pop over here if you do that. Even if it's only for an episode, I want more Cowboy Wells. Cowboy Wells and Harry Wells there together would be just make it the Tom Cavanaugh show for like 2 episodes. I'll be fine with it. But yeah, that's good stuff. And you got a point there about the superhero bubble, which is why I think that I fully agree with you. Thor Ragnarok, changing things up, going for something different. That's going to kind of keep things fresh. And if it's successful, it's going to show the studio that, hey, you can totally do this. You can make something that's off the wall, something totally different from what you've done up to now, and you're still going to make money hand over fist. And in fact, you're probably going to make more because people are going to stay interested in it. And that's the idea. Be open to doing something completely outside your usual, outside your comfort zone.
Right.
And I hope that the DC movies will follow suit with that. We don't know how Justice League is going to go, but maybe it will turn out okay.
Look, I'm open. I mean, from what I've seen, the previews look good. Like, I've loved what DC's done so far. I mean, I'm not completely happy with every little single aspect, but I mean, I've been pretty entertained with like Man of Steel.
Great film.
I thought Man of Steel was a great film. The Superman Batman director's cut, I think, is the premier
pretty good
version that people should watch. And like I said, their issues, like DC's comics are they're just little droplets of humor in them, and I think a lot of folks going into these films maybe just don't understand that there's a little. This is more of a darker tone they're taking, and I'm not bothered by that.
I'm not. I think the humor is there. It's just it's a different flavor of humor than what the MCU does. Like the MCU is very hard on its sleeve type of humor. Like there's no way you're going to miss the joke. The DC films absolutely have humor in them, including Man of Steel and even Batman v Superman. For as dark as that movie is, it's just very dry.
I think Jason Momoa is going to be like the way Wonder Woman was in Batman Super. I think way she kind of stole the last end of the film. I think Aquaman's gonna be that kind of. He's probably gonna steal some scenes. Like you say, he's gonna chew on some scenes.
I think he makes the movie. Honestly,
yeah.
I feel like between Gal Gadot, and Ben Affleck, I think that those three will make this film, and probably to a lesser extent Jeremy Irons. Because honestly, I haven't been very impressed with what I've seen out of this version of Flash. I hope it's not as annoying in practice as it has been in the trailers.
Yeah.
So far, there's only been like a couple of moments where I thought, okay, well, this looks pretty good. This looks okay. But I hate the suit. I really do. And
I don't mind the suit. And I do agree with you. I think him and Cyborg, I want to have some moments to shine. They really need them. I know that Cyborg's going to have his catchphrase "Booyah."
Oh yeah.
And I know he's gonna throw that out there at some point in time. My concern is like you don't like the Flash suit. I'm worried about Cyborg's the CGI stuff they're doing with Cyborg. That's what I'm kind of worried about.
I'm right there with you. That's another concern I have with Justice League is that the CGI on Cyborg, sometimes it looks fine.
Right.
There are a couple of scenes that have been cleaned up that definitely look better than they did in that initial trailer. But I got to tell you, all the stuff that we're seeing that clearly comes from the third act with the red skies and everything. Oh, dude, that scene when he catches Aquaman out of midair looks so bad.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is taking me right out of this movie. This is so CGI heavy.
That's what I'm worried about. Did they not make because like Tony or like Robert Downey Jr., they had practical suits that he wore for a lot of scenes that were heavy and bulky. Did they not make any for him?
No, he is a mocap. He is wearing a mocap suit, and the only parts that are legit are the red lights on his chest and on his eye. He actually did wear he wore an eyepiece to project that so that they could have legit like red lights and know where to put the animation points. But to that point, Robert Downey Jr. actually hasn't worn a legit Iron Man suit since the first film.
Well, I know that they made one for the first film, but you know,
they mocapped that suit completely in Iron Man 3 and in Captain America: Civil War.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I thought that they had some practical effects in there because
you know that scene in the airport when he's standing there with War Machine, and they both got their helmets pulled back so you can see their face, but they look like they're in armor. The only part of that that's real are the helmets that are pulled back. Everything else is mocap. Wow. They're wearing mocap underwear.
Wow. They should have got they should have got those guys from Avengers to do this, because that's scary. Yeah, that is really scary.
It's scary good, like how good Marvel's CG brand is, or like how good their CG branch is. And Warner Brothers, they have their own, but it's the house that made the Lord of the Rings effects, which look good in fantasy and in Harry Potter type stuff. But when
it's different when it's modern.
Yeah, I mean, it's different when you're trying to make superhero films. That's not always going to look good. Kudos to them for having a brighter color palette and for strong casting across the board. I think with the I'm going to give Ezra Miller a chance to impress me in film, and hopefully he does. But I'm not enthusiastic about that. And yes, my bias towards Grant Gustin is playing a factor there. But but that's how I view Barry Allen. You know, if he were playing like Bart or a version of Wally, I could get on board with that. I'd be like, okay, I was like, this kind of fits there. It especially fits Bart. And they did help my feelings towards him a little bit when they said that he's actually playing college student Barry Allen. Like, he's not a full forensic scientist yet, but that he will be shortly. So, okay, college student Barry Allen gets his flash power, so he's still a kid, which explains some of the way he acts. Yet, that's still not what I want, out of my Flash character. But we shall see. We got a couple of weeks to go before Justice League gets here. And if you guys want to hear a full-length review of Thor Ragnarok and Justice League, you can definitely hit up the Hard Traveling Fanboys podcast, because they are going to dedicate whole episodes to that through this month of November. Kelly and I are kind of sort of joining them, and we're looking at Thor: The Dark World in this episode. And in our next episode, hopefully we're going to be joined by a couple of special guests who have never been on this show at the same time, as we take a look at the much maligned, and I wouldn't necessarily say missed, but it's Batman v Superman's Ultimate Edition. We're going to be breaking down that 3-hour epic film, talking about the positives, the negatives, and talking about why we think people didn't connect with us, and why critics didn't connect with it. And then going a bit more in depth on our hopes and dreams for Justice League and for the larger DC Films universe, or DCFU, if you will, which is funny, because DC Extended Universe is apparently something that someone else made up and has never been used by anyone working for DC Films ever. So, there you go. But anyway, that's what we'll be talking about in our next episode. And, who knows if it's timed right, it may be after Justice League comes out, so maybe we'll be giving our full-length thoughts on it too. But you can also look for my print reviews, if you would prefer to read your reviews of Thor Ragnarok and Justice League, right here on Place to Be Nation, coming up later this month. So, with that, Kelly, any final thoughts about Thor Ragnarok before we sign off?
Not really. I'm just ready to, ready to see it.
Me too, buddy. I am ready to go sit in that cold, dark theater and to be entertained by yet another film that, honestly, if you'd have told me that this was coming back whenever I was like in high school or something, I'd have thought you were nuts. But this, we truly do live in a golden age of superhero film and superhero adaptation. Man, it's an amazing time to be alive. But with that, since you're done with our episode, go check out some of the other podcasts. We mentioned the Hard Traveling Fanboys. Go check out our friends Jenny and Miranda over on Geek and Sassy. They're always up to something fun. I believe they're going to be having an episode coming out all about Stranger Things with a very special guest joining them for that. Check out Conversation Comics with the manager and guest from our previous episode, Mr. Todd Weber, who has just been knocking it out of the park with the Byrne and Claremont era read-through of X-Men, of Uncanny X-Men that he's been doing with 110 Capel. They set a record recently with their most recent episode where they went over 2 hours on one issue. That is tremendous stuff. Panel by panel type read through with great commentary from both of them. It's hilarious. You got to hear this stuff for yourself. And read along with them. It makes it even more fun. There's plenty of other stuff. If you're a big pro wrestling fan, there's plenty of good stuff on this on the Place to Be Nation main pod feed, all throughout the main site. And if you're a music fan, got to give a big shout out to buddy David Sunday for his new podcast, that monthly cast called The Sunday Groove. I've been on it a couple of times. It's been fun to talk about some of those old albums that we loved back in college, talking about bands that have helped to shape us into the people we are today. So make sure you guys go and check out all of that when you get a chance. And thank you again for joining us on this episode of Sellers Points as we rebooked Thor: The Dark World and gave a little preview of Thor: Ragnarok. Go see the film this weekend and then come back and tell us what you thought about it. Look for my full-length print review, and then come back next time whenever we go in deep on a Missed in the Maligned of Batman v Superman: The Ultimate Edition. Until then, folks, we'll see you next time.